Hey, amazing fans! Welcome to another relaxing moment with VIVA'S stories. Before we dive into the drama, don't forget to subscribe, smash that like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support means the world to us. Now, grab a seat, sit back, relax, and let's journey into the story together. Ethan Marlowe had built an empire from silicon and steel. At 39, he ruled over a tech dynasty that spanned continents, yet every birthday reminded him of what he lacked: a legacy. His name, his blood, his essence, set to vanish with him. The tabloids called him the billionaire prince, but Ethan saw himself as a king without a successor. Death was inevitable. Irrelevance wasn't. His penthouse overlooked the Manhattan skyline, a glass and steel fortress that mirrored his carefully constructed life. But behind the brilliance of code and the echo of applause at investor meetings, Ethan felt the gnawing emptiness that numbers couldn't fill. He rarely spoke of it, but sometimes, on quiet, stormlit nights, he'd look at his reflection in the window and wonder what it was all for. What good was genius if it ended with you? The world assumed Ethan didn't marry because he was too busy or too arrogant. But the truth was colder than that. At 17, Ethan had watched his parents' jet vanish from radar, their remains never found. Their love had been legendary, but love hadn't saved them. Love had made them fragile. "I don't have time for emotional liabilities," he once told Marcus. Marcus had smirked. "So you're ruling out happiness?" "Not happiness," Ethan replied. "Dependency." Since then he'd kept women at a distance. His heart was a vault sealed by loss and logic. He built companies, not connections. Partners, not lovers. Love, to him, was entropy. But even the coldest man couldn't escape biology. And biology wanted an heir. Ethan summoned Marcus Trent to his study, a sleek, minimalistic space with shelves of code and rare art. "I want a child," Ethan said without preamble. Marcus blinked. "Do you want a partner? Marriage? No. No entanglements. I want control." "A surrogate? Too clinical. Too exposed. I want discretion. A private agreement." Marcus nodded slowly. "You're asking me to find a woman willing to carry your child. For money." "Call it a mutually beneficial arrangement," Ethan said. "Make the contract watertight. No custody claims. She walks away after birth." Marcus sighed. "This is either genius or deeply tragic." "Both," Ethan said. Weeks passed. Prospects were vetted. Backgrounds checked. But no one fit. Then, one rainy evening, Ethan's driver stopped at a red light. That's when he saw her. A young woman stood barefoot under a flickering street lamp, soaked and singing, not for art, but for survival. Her voice trembled with cold, yet held a haunting clarity. Their eyes met for a second. Hers were defiant, not defeated. Ethan rolled down his window. "Get in." She narrowed her gaze. "Why?" "Because it's freezing. And you're not meant to be out here." Reluctantly, she climbed in. "Don't expect gratitude." "I don't do this for gratitude." "Then why do it?" He looked at her again. "Because you look like you don't break easily." She said her name was Raya Monroe. No last known address. No family listed. Ethan offered food, shelter. She refused money. "You're not the type who helps strangers," she said. "So what do you want from me?" He explained the deal. A child. No emotional strings. Complete discretion. Raya listened without flinching. "So I'm your incubator?" Compensated. Respected. Not owned. She stared out the window. Rain painted streaks across the glass. "If I do this, I add one clause. I leave after the birth. No questions. No chasing." "Done," he said. They shook hands. It was colder than any business deal Ethan had ever made. The papers were drawn. Raya read every page. "No visitation rights?" she asked. "None," he confirmed. "No medical decisions without consent?" "You're in full control during pregnancy." She signed with a firm hand. "Then we're clear." The next day, she moved into a guest wing of his penthouse. No fanfare. No introductions. Ethan watched her from a distance. She never asked for anything. She kept her room spotless, ate modestly, and read for hours in the solarium. She was not what he expected, and that unsettled him more than he liked. They existed like ghosts sharing a house. Meals were left outside doors. Appointments arranged through staff. Raya didn't try to connect. Ethan didn't offer. Still, he noticed things. She hummed old jazz tunes while walking. She talked to the baby when she thought no one was around. He almost asked her a question once, but stopped. They weren't supposed to be people to each other. Just roles in a plan. And then the fever came. It started with a cough. Then Raya collapsed in the hallway. Ethan found her barely conscious. For the first time, panic broke through his armor. He carried her to the master suite and called his private doctor. 3 days. That's how long she hovered in and out of fevered sleep. Ethan stayed with her, fed her broth, cooled her forehead. On the second night, she whispered, "Why are you here?" He answered without thinking, "Because I care what happens to you." She opened her eyes. That wasn't in the contract. "No," he said. It wasn't. Dawn broke over Manhattan like liquid silver. Raya went into labor just before sunrise. It wasn't supposed to matter. But Ethan was there, holding her hand, whispering encouragement. Aiden arrived with a wail that echoed through Ethan's soul. The nurse handed him the baby. Ethan stared at the tiny, wrinkled face. Something shifted in his chest, a tectonic snap. He turned to Raya, but she was already gone. Ethan tried to act indifferent. Hired nannies. Scheduled feedings. But when Aiden cried, Ethan came running. When Aiden smiled, Ethan found himself smiling too. He rocked the boy to sleep one night and whispered, "You weren't supposed to matter. But you do." Each day blurred into a rhythm. Aiden grew. Crawled. Said, before he said, toy. Ethan no longer saw the child as a legacy. And that terrified him more than anything. By Aiden's 3rd birthday, he started to ask questions. "Where's mommy?" was his favorite. Every time Ethan looked into those big, curious eyes, guilt twisted in his chest. He had nothing to offer the boy. No stories. No photographs. Not even a name. Ethan tried distracting him, with toys, tutors, trips. But Aiden always came back to the same question. Marcus noticed the shift. "You look haunted." Ethan admitted it over drinks. "He's looking for answers. And I don't have any." Marcus leaned back. "Want me to find her?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Do it quietly." Marcus was a bloodhound with a Harvard law degree. In weeks, he had traced Raya to a coastal town in Maine. She used a false name, but her medical records match. She stayed in a shelter run by nuns. No paper trail before that. Ethan scanned the file. There was a newspaper clipping. Raya in a red dress at a fundraiser, smiling beside a man whose name made Ethan's stomach clench, Donovan Creed. "Who is he?" Marcus replied, "An arms tycoon. Very powerful. Very private. Filed a missing persons report on her 6 years ago." Ethan stared at the photo. Raya looked happy, but her eyes didn't smile. The more Marcus uncovered, the darker the truth became. Raya had been engaged to Creed. Publicly adored, privately controlled. She disappeared the day after Creed closed a weapons deal with a foreign regime, Marcus said. She knew something, Ethan guessed. Or she was collateral. Ethan felt it all unravel. The contract, the deal, the illusion that she was just a runaway. She had been hiding from a man who would move heaven and hell to own her. And Ethan had brought her into the spotlight. At a charity gala, a woman approached Ethan in the garden. "You don't know me," she said. "But I know Raya." Her name was Cleo, Raya's childhood friend. "She didn't tell you everything." She couldn't. Cleo handed him a folded note. Inside was a hospital record and a scrawled message. "You weren't the only one who needed an heir." Ethan's heart stopped. Aiden collapsed after a routine vaccination. At the hospital, doctors found a rare blood disorder. They needed genetic markers. Ethan offered his blood without hesitation. The doctor returned with a frown. "Mr. Marlowe, you're not a match." "What do you mean?" "You're not the biological father." Silence. The contract. The pregnancy. The birth. All of it built on a lie. Ethan withdrew from Aiden, from Marcus, from the world. The markets trembled. Investors grew anxious. Rumors spread. He barely noticed. All he could hear was Raya's voice, promising honesty. All he could see were Aiden's eyes, the same ones that once brought him peace. Then one night, Aiden found him on the balcony. "Daddy." Ethan turned, startled. "You should be asleep." "I don't care if you're not my real daddy," Aiden said. "You're still mine." Ethan broke. Raya appeared in the penthouse 3 days later. Thin, but fierce. "You lied to me," Ethan said. "I did," she said. "Because I had no choice." She told him everything. How Creed planned to use Aiden as leverage. How she ran, pregnant and terrified. How she picked Ethan not for his money, but because he was the only man she believed could protect a child. "I was never meant to survive." Aiden was. Ethan sat in silence. Then said, "He's more mine than anyone else's. And I'm not letting him go." Donovan Creed was already circling. Private investigators. Bribes. Threats. He contacted Ethan directly. "You have something of mine." Ethan stared into the camera. "You lost your chance when you treated people like property." Creed laughed. "We'll see how brave you are when everything you built starts falling apart." Ethan knew then, it was war. Marcus brought options. Relocation. Legal action. Security. "But you'll have to step down. The board won't survive a public feud with Creed." Ethan looked at Raya. At Aiden. "Let it fall," he said. "The company. The image. Everything. I won't trade them for any of it." He turned to Marcus. "Make it official. I'm leaving it all." Ethan destroyed the contract and filed new papers, adopting Aiden as his son. He married Raya in a quiet ceremony in the Rockies. The tabloids speculated. The markets adjusted. But Ethan Marlowe was gone. In his place was a man who walked forest trails, who read bedtime stories, who kissed his wife in the rain. And when Aiden called him Dad, he didn't flinch. Because in the end, legacy wasn't about empire. It was about love. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell for newly created content.